We finally saw a test of 562 for the SPY, an area that we're paying attention to for rejection to see if we are going to get some big volatility to come in. And there are a lot of things we are seeing in this area that just say this weekend could be a spooky, spooky thing. And so we need to get into that as we get into that technical analysis and check out the futures, which is showing a certain signal in here. Man, we need to be paying attention. So let's get into it. For the time being, I know everyone paying attention to Apple. I know everyone paying attention to Amazon, those things coming down. They have their calls coming out soon and we'll be paying attention to them. But the important part here is just we need to figure out if tomorrow is really going to be affected by this. We're going into a Friday. That means options are expiring. And so if you really wanted a little outlook on, hey, are we going to go to those extremely lower prices, get a test down here towards 510 or possibly even a test of 480 in the month of May, well, then we might want to be paying attention to signals like this one. If you really pull up the futures market, this is the thing that is not giving too much confidence. And if this confirms, it says be very, very cautious holding things over the weekend. Now, this doesn't mean to me it has to be something absolutely awful. These things can work themselves out, but it tells you that there is some risk that if you get some solidified, certainly bad news over the weekend, then you need to be paying attention. And so a piece of news that a lot of people are not paying attention to while everyone's distracted by earnings is this guy right here. Non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate. These will be very important that they are coming out before market open tomorrow. So let's just be aware of that and look for reactions at this time. And then we're going to go into the SPY on these shorter time frames and talk about those daily expected moves. And just so you know, if you want to join on Patreon, you need a daily expected move for Apple, a daily expected move for Amazon, maybe a daily expected move for Tesla or any of the stocks that we cover on the right side here. We just put out the daily expected moves on Patreon. The link is there in the description if you would like to join. So something we'll notice here is the 30-minute was able to violate some divergence here, still holding the first point way, way back. But for the time being, we could still be in a market where it's Friday and we need to see some crazy things, right? We can see crazy things as volatility potentially increases. People are saying volatility is dramatically increasing, and we'll maybe go over that in a second because that's just not correct. You're at a point where volatility can begin to increase, and then we start to go into that turbulent market. Are you there yet? We'll have to see price action tomorrow. For the time being, the 30-minute did confirm with the price action. It did confirm with the MACD, and it did confirm with the RSI for the time being if you're utilizing that signal line. This tells us that there is risk to go retest into this zone. That's right. All we're really talking about here, if we're not losing this, as far as how we get back up to these levels is, hey, we just broke through, we gapped to the upside, come back down into that zone, and now use that middle line right around 550 to actually turn back up to see higher prices here. So we'll find out if that's going to take place, but that's really the only thing I'm looking for. Right now, the 30 minutes confirmed down, suggesting it could pull back, and then we do have a point to pay attention to with our daily expected moves, right? 551.12 to the downside. We have 565.82 to the upside. Once again, 565 becoming important. So for the time being, how we get to 565, we're going to see what we're getting right now continue. You might see a sell-off early on in the day and see that thing be able to buy back up. And then I would really still be watching out for like holding things over the weekend with the things that we have going on here. It just means, hey, this is a great play, right? We were paying attention to the 2-hour higher low. Okay, now it's time to potentially make a decision with all of that money that you're potentially making. It should be good stuff. So for the time being, if this wanted to break down, and thank you so much for subscribing. Let me just turn that off. Alejandro, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for subscribing. But I'm going to turn that off for the time being. Make sure you're subscribed as well. If this is going to break down, what we need to see is this break through all of this. We really need to see most of this broken. You need that to come down to these type of levels, maybe even come out of that zone, then retest in it, see rejection again, and watch that thing roll over, almost in some kind of, like you would say, head and shoulders. But that's really how you end up down to 535, right around 535. So you're looking for, if this is going to get really bad, you want something surprising then, most likely on this Friday. And that would be, hey, maybe gap below or just see this thing swipe through all of this, maybe catch a bounce down in these areas and use that as resistance, because you can use daily expected moves as resistance in these areas. Now, is this overall like terrible? Is this really, really bad to send us down lower? And the answer to that is, if you're looking at the futures, yes. If you're looking here, then you're saying, okay, we could see this 2-hour dip all the way back down, curl back up and set a trap a little bit higher up. So we'll be paying attention to that, as I don't believe we came up to the gap fill. So we'll be watching for things like this, paying attention to our weekly expected moves. But the main thing that we can get across here is, man, we might be cooked over the weekend if this thing gets some bad news at this exact moment. Now, the Qs, I am expecting some volatility. Once again, confirmation with price action, confirmation with MACD, confirmation with RSI that you're at least seeing a 30-minute pullback. To do what? Well, what did we do around here, right? We dropped out of this zone. We built back in it. We took back that center, and then we bursted to the upside like a front run. It almost looks like a front run for downside here as well. So not necessarily the best thing. But for the time being, if this is just going to be a pullback, okay, we have a daily expected move. We can watch 474.35. We have a second point you can watch, which is even better, I think. Right around, I would, somewhere around that 471.50 type of level. This would be a good area to see if we can catch that support to actually shoot back to the upside, and we'll be paying attention to those things with you live in the morning on YouTube. But just note that the Qs just had two huge companies put out earnings, and they just had two huge companies put out earnings yesterday as well. So this thing is going to potentially be up and down and all around with options expiration. We'll see what happens with it so far, but also taking into consideration that these aren't necessarily the best things to see, right? You want to see more time for a pullback here, more consolidation before getting that move. And that's why I'm really weary about this, right? We're getting these upward moves on some earnings, big announcements, and then those could all just like fade down as people potentially take some profit. And we could at least see these things start to pull back, at least for the Qs. So 489.01 to the upside, 474.35 to the downside. Once again, if you're going to see this break to the upside, well, we might come back down into that zone, see some support come in and be able to turn back up and continue on our merry way next week. Maybe still paying attention to risk over the weekend. Seems a little crazy out there for the weekend, right? Just the things that are adding up with the futures are just saying, man, if you're willing to hold over the weekend, you might have some huevos, okay? If we're going to break down from here, you're probably going to have to see something pretty damn ugly to break down completely on Friday, right? We're going to have to maybe break down to these type of areas and see some of these type of things go on to actually roll that and actually break through this low. So those are some things that I'd be paying attention to, some kind of structure over here that tells you, hey, it's likely we're heading down. That's going to be the case there. So we'd have to probably see something surprising, which is very interesting because implied volatility actually came in today or for tomorrow, which is very cool. That means that something surprising can take place. If they get bad calls or anything, and guidance will be huge here, even if they're beating, they need, good guidance. And that's very hard to do for those two companies who are very susceptible to some tariff problems, right? Some tariff issues on the pricing of their products and things like that. So it is going to be an interesting day. There's no way to really say like, oh, there is serious direction to head down tomorrow. There's serious direction to head up. I would say that this seems pretty damn probable at this moment. We gap down, you're able to buy that back up, and then you actually reverse as you retest the high. I think that would be something to pay attention to. And we'll watch this live in the morning and maybe drop some more of these zones so you guys can pay attention to it. But island reversal is on the table as well if we're able to see a gap really low and then we head down, see that bounce to get retail like, yay, we're all excited. Friday, we're coming back. And then on Monday, you just roll that thing to the downside. So a lot of risk over the weekend. That's the main point to get across here. Hope it's helpful. Apple, just obviously not a good thing. Just squeeze. Uh-oh, you can always fall off. But the big thing here is just where are you rejecting from? It doesn't look that bad from the 2-hour perspective. This can continue, just so you're aware, maybe to get to these price points up here towards 217 to 218. That'd be very good. But if you just reject here and you turn all the way down and you go down to this type of area, well, this is telling you something. This is saying, okay, we're going into that downtrend for a bit of time, and we're probably filling both of those gaps. So just be aware of that. But all of this can change by morning, so we just don't want to go into it, too in depth. I'd rather look at something like Tesla that looks like, hey, it's still kind of looking like it's trying to get this volatile flag. And if that would break to the upside, if you get this to curl up, that would be a good thing. But like I said, you're seeing some risky areas. You're in a risky area where you can see drop, right? So we haven't seen that big drop yet, but it doesn't mean you're really looking great here for the time being. We can see that the daily chart could cross down and everything would be wiped out. So we'll be paying attention to those things. But I think the main thing that can actually help you out is, weirdly enough, the dollar making a comeback here. That's very, very good. So this positivity can continue. I just think we might need to go sideways for a bit, not necessarily for the dollar, but for the market. But the dollar snapping back up is going to be a good thing if that happens. Just note it can snap up, roll down, and then create a base here if it needs to. But we are looking for the dollar. And then volatility. Volatility, a lot of people saying like, oh, extreme volatility is here right now. That's just because of option. That's just because of earnings. You do not have volatility at a higher level. You have it at a lower level. So that means you're at a moment where that can spike up and start to come back into the market. But for the time being, you don't have volatility super high. All right. You're probably looking at this going, hey, when is that going to go super high? And you're looking at the 2 hour and you're going, hey, what do we have down here? We have the confirmation of divergence now on the 2 hour. So we mentioned this during the live show. We were paying attention to the 2 hour if it would make a divergence and confirm that. It confirmed it. It's above the 9. It's not above the 5 yet. This is saying that, volatility can start up tomorrow. It doesn't mean it has to go straight up, but it can. It really can start up tomorrow, at least getting back above this 5, maybe taking back a level of like, I guess you would say like anything above 2650 would be, hey, volatility is coming back in. So for the time being, you do have a 2 hour divergence. What does this like to do? It means that next week you're at serious risk of turning down. Not only is the future saying it for the S&P 500, but you're actually seeing it from volatility, right? You're getting a similar 2 hour signal. You're getting a 4 hour for the SPY this way and the 2 hour for VIX this way, or not the SPY, but the SPX 500. And then you're getting the 2 hour this way, which just tells me this is the opportunity where, like, watch out over the weekend, right? You've heard me say that multiple times. But if the daily crosses up here, something we'll look for is if volatility spikes, maybe for a week or so, and then we see that drop back in. And then at the same time, right? Same time, we want to see the SPY. If that's going to dip down, either it goes down to that low and we see volatility give us that divergence between the two with the lower high compared to the test of the bottom here, or we're going to see both at the same time do the same thing, which is we get a higher low from the SPY, we get a lower high from volatility if this thing turns up. So the main thing I wanted to get across in this video and why we don't have to talk about things too much is we need to see the price action of tomorrow and really dictate like, hey, what's happening here? But whatever the price action does tomorrow, I can tell you this, pretty assured, right, with this, there is some big risk of holding things to the, I would say, long side or even trying to take like shorts or anything like that. I just think in this type of environment right now and where we are at with price, it looks like we are going to see something like this or sideways before we're able to go higher after tomorrow. So tomorrow's price action, we'll look into it, see if it changes. But for the time being, the weekend looks super risky with the things we have going on out there. So just wanted to put that out there. Food for thought. I have to take off pretty early today. Again, it's just a busy week for me over here. So I appreciate you guys still joining the live streams and watching these videos. It means a lot. But I just wanted to go over some little things that I was thinking about, mainly talking about how this would continue. This would be, I think, how it would continue. How it would overall stop right now is you keep fooling around up in these areas and then you go through something ugly that then rejects to the downside and you're going to be at 435 pretty quick, especially with the reversal signals that you are seeing over here, right? If this is able to confirm and it doesn't whip back up and make a new high, right? We see some kind of little lackluster bounce and that just rolls. That's just not going to be a good thing for the SPX 500. It's just not, which means this can roll down on a daily chart, which means this can go test right here or right here in the next couple of weeks. So just be aware of that. Keep your wrist close to your chest, right? Especially for this weekend. If you had a good week, don't ruin it by trying to do something. You don't have to trade every single day. Me, myself, I'll probably be holding out and just waiting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks because I don't think that the big trade is really here. I mean, this is definitely a trade to be taken by some people, but I think the big trade could be actually down here in these type of levels where we could see some de-escalation take place. So thank you guys for watching this video. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys were able to get something helpful from it. If not, hey, come to the live video in the morning and ask some questions. We can talk about price action in the morning and try to figure out which kind of scenario is going to play out over the next few trading sessions. But we do understand that there is risk. And if we do get some bad news over the weekend, we might be cooked. So thank you guys. Have a great day. Peace out.